So some of it could be dry. Some of it could be dry. But if you throw yourself into some of the details, it makes it a lot more interesting, you know? So certain Sfarim you could look at if you want to like expand more. So first of all, there's the regular Meforshim, all the ones on the page. So it'll give you a little bit more life. Next, go to the Malbim. The Malbim is lengthy, it's full of words. But if you want to learn the Perek with the Malbim, Aleph, 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 plus, plus, plus. You know, you could do that. If you want to look deeper, at deeper Svarim, so there's a Sefer called, I don't know if they have it here, probably not. There's a set of Svarim called the Ramad Vali, aka the Ramdu. He was made popular by the Zusha song and the Ramad Vali. He made it popular. But you should know I've been learning the Ramad Vali for who knows how many years, and I was zocheh to go to his kever. And the Ramad Vali, the Ramad Vali. It's very interesting how they found his Svarim. Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about the Ramad Vali, just because we're talking about him. And in fact, in all my Nach daily classes, the most number one question I get is, who is the Ramad Vali? Believe it or not, I get the email all the time. I have a pre-template I just put in there to answer of something I wrote up once. So the Ramad Vali was first of all, he lived in Padua, which is an hour drive from Venice in Italy. At that time, historically, what was going on, there was the Venice Renaissance period, where it was a relatively good time and place to live for the Jews. They had to live in the ghetto, actually the Venice ghetto, the Venetian ghetto. All ghettos are named al shem that ghetto. Ghetto actually means to throw out, to remove, because the island, Venice is like small islands, Kilu, and where the Jews were placed on that island was where they put the copper. They take all the copper and the scraps of the copper, they used to put it on the island, and that was like their garbage dump, so to speak. And they gave that island to the Jews, and the Jews lived there, and that was called the ghetto. So any Jewish ghetto after that is called from the Venetian ghetto.
Took all those copper and turned it into pennies and took all their gold.
We took all their money, right? So basically, at that time in Italy, there was a renaissance of education, right? The Rabbanim at that time, who were some that were there. There was the Ramaz, and this high school Ramaz is named after. I don't know exactly. I have to look up exactly what years when the Ramchal lived around that time. So when the Ramchal lived in the 1700s, right? Right, late 16, early 1700s. And what happened was the Jews wanted to move any place which was relatively safe and had economic prosperity. So if you were relatively safe and you were able to make some money, Jews wanted to go there. So this was considered a good place to live. And at that time, again, culturally speaking, there was this renaissance. So you had the Ramchal, who lived an hour drive in Padua. Interesting fact about the Ramchal, the university in Padua is the same place where Galileo taught. Oh. So I'm just saying like Galileo, you know, right? Amazing. Galileo was the one who discovered that the orbit, we touched on this last week, what orbits around what, right? But he basically came up with the whole idea that we're not the center in terms of geographic center, that the planetary systems are all orbiting around each other, all orbiting, you know? So Galileo was the first one to come up with that. Other than that, it was believed, and there are even different psukim and chazal that maybe indicate this, whatever. It's not going to be our topic for today.
Still those people.
And they're still flat earth thinkers. They're still flat earth thinkers, right?
The earth is round.
What?
I think the earth is round.
The earth is round, but there are other psukim that say Eretz Omedet La'ah, that the world existed forever. There's all different sorts of psukim. Always say Arba Kanfo Ta'aretz, the four corners of the earth.
Square.
It's a square, flat earth thinking. Whatever, it's not our topic today, just side talking about the Ramad Vali. Because in order to understand the Ramchal and Ramad Vali, you have to understand really what's going on at that time, right? So basically, the Ramad Vali was a doctor, he was a lawyer, he was educated, he was Makubal, and he was both a student and a Rebbe of the Ramchal. They were Rebbe Chaverim, and the Ramchal's court in Padua, the Ramchal held he was Mashiach ben Yosef, and Rav Moshe David Wali, his main student, was Mashiach ben David. And there was another Talmud there, Reb Yeshaya, and Yeshaya was Eliyahu Hanavi. And if you want to get yourself put in Chayrim, just say you're Mashiach ben Yosef, and the guy next to you is Mashiach ben David, and you're good to go. So
this happened a lot.
Right.
Stanza, right? Stanza.
So not sure. So basically, the Ramad Vali wrote a Sefer al Pi Kabbalah. There's all this to say about this. The Ramad Vali wrote a Sefer al Pi Kabbalah on every sefer of Tanakh. And on Chumash, the Torah party wrote 2 svarim. They found it's meshulav, it's intertwined between the words, right? It's intertwined between the words, and it's alpi panemius. So if you really want to level up and learn like deep, that's like the deepest on Navi's Sefer Madwali, and it's a full sefer on each section. I was actually looking for it in my house the other day, and I can't find my Sefer Yehoshua on it. The whole kit and caboodle is like 20-something volumes, because it's every book of Navi, Ksuvim, and on Chumash there's 2. So it's like, there's not enough time to finish all of Tanakh this year, but there's, I don't know, we would have to count the days. I didn't make a calendar of it, but you could finish, definitely, you could finish Nevi'im Rishonim and most of Nevi'im Achronim, for sure.
You can't learn Mishnah in a day.
You can actually, yeah. I mean, you can, they're different. My style of learning is, what I like to do is I like to get the overview first. It's me personally. And I find that's like a good way to learn. Like even learning, if you're going to learn Mishnah or Tehillim, like read it straight through one time. And now you have like context before content, right? So I like to see like the bigger picture, and then you could see it, and then you could dive into details. A lot of times people dive straight into the details and they're missing out on the bigger picture. They get lost in the woods. So again, to be machazit, that's from Adwal, if you know what you're saying. I'm going to show some maps today. Right. We're going to show some maps today. This, over here, we got a lot of good maps over here. And I'll send everyone a link. Maybe Reb Yehuda could send it, because I'm not going to pass around my phone now, but pictures of Old Yericho and some of the spots. So you can actually go there. I've never been to some of the spots, but I've looked at the pictures like hundreds of times, and they're there. You could go there. It's kedai to go there. I've been to some of the spots, not all the spots, but we're going to get into that. Yeah? So let's just, sikum some of this, and we'll stop and we'll add some points just to add some flavor and character as we figure out how we're going to run this Chaburah over here, right? So last week we started with Yehoshua was entering the land, and he had this promise, this mission, in order to, Hashem charged him with the mission. You're going to take the Jews into Eretz Yisrael. And Hashem says, I'm going to be with you, like I'm going to be with Moshe. The mantle of leadership now takes place. So now what happens is, Yehoshua now goes to spy the land, Parak base, right? Yehoshua goes to spy the land, and he sends 2 spies. It says they were Kalev and Pinchas, and we get introduced to Rachav. Now, before we get into Rachav, there's a question over here. The Malbim asked this, and this is really a classic question. Didn't Yehoshua learn not to send spies? What happened last time we sent spies? It didn't turn out good.
Oh.
Didn't turn out good.
This is why he does it quietly. Is that the point?
But bam, my man. Right. So there are a bunch of different answers given that the difference, the Malbim gives, I think, 6 or 7 differences. But one of the main differences, if you see in the pasuk over here, it says, let me turn to Parak Beis, V'yishlach shnei anashim meraglim cheresh. Silent. These were covert operation intelligence gatherers. We sent them into Iran. They were on the ground and they were gathering intelligence, right? And this is different than the Meraglim that were sent publicly, each one representing one of the 12 Shvatim, right? So we know that they were going, the spies by Moshe were going as this public display, as is it good or is it not good? But the spies in Yehoshua were sent covert operation. They were part of the Mossad. They were part of the Shin Bet, right? And they were going in and they were gathering information about what's the best way to do things. This wasn't, we're deciding whether it's good or not, right? So that's why the pasuk says it was 2 of them. They were Anashim, not 12 Roshei Nesiim, heads of the tribes, right? It says that they were Shnei Anashim, 2 men, Meraglim, Cheresh, silent.
They were also with the ready proof. Caleb went in and was the guy who was the miracle by Moshe, who still said good things.
Right.
And then Pinchas was very pro Hashem.
Right. Pinchas was pro Hashem for sure. Right. So this is not the first time we're meeting these characters. These are, Caleb and Pinchas were dedicated to the cause, right? They weren't rabble rousers in that way, Right. That's all they needed because they weren't, it's not like
It's down to coup d'etat.
Yes, I was telling David this before that the reason why you need, the only thing to fear right before going to battle is your own fear. So all they needed to report back was that we don't have to be scared. They're the ones who are scared. This is the people who are scared of this.
Right. There's nothing to fear other than fear itself. Or it says, right, or it says by the Meraglim itself, it says we were like grasshoppers in their eyes. That's exactly what you're saying. They were scared. So there was a level of countertransference that took place.
Yeah.
If anyone, so, right, that's one of the things. And we're gonna come to the war a little bit, how they set this up. So what's next now, right? We're introduced to Rachav. I want to spend a minute on Rachav for a second. So the Das Sofrim says over here, so it says she was a zona. Some want to learn zona was a lashon of prostitution, harlotry, and someone learned zona, lashon mazon, food, right? So the question is, what's really going on here? So I think both are true. The Das Sofrim over here says, Hanavi miyachid makom lirachav lidivreya. The Das Sofrim, I just want to read these words because he says it so nicely, that the Navi gives space in order to speak about Rachav. He midgala kidmus atzila. She seemed very refined. Balas hakara elyona. She was a lofty person. Asher gam betumas haaretz Canaan shelo pischa legamri gam aleha. Because even in the land of Canaan, which was Tameh, she still held her regalness. Lo nisnavnu gavos nafsha. Right, so we're talking about this to bring out the loftiness of her soul, her high level. He moredet b'malka. She went against the kingdom. She was mored b'malchus ba'ameha and her nation. Leman kavod Hashem u'toch yediyas b'gedulaso. In order for the honor of God to bring out Hashem's glory. Right, lefi hamosras hutra Rachav lavo kahal Yisrael. We know that Rachav she was Megayer. She converted. And from her children came out great people. So it says, it doesn't say it over here, but in another place it says that there were a bunch of Nevi'im that came from Rachav. This is one of the righteous people from the nations of the world who joined Ta'am Yisrael in order, because they heard about Hashem's glory. So I just like his language, how he uses it, right? That she was this honorable person. On the other hand, Melashon Zona, right? So this doesn't take away the fact that she was a prostitute. So I think it's worthy to mention, I don't want to be so explicit in the base medrash over here, but we'll just speak Lashon B'nai Adam. Like, you see this woman, she was a holy prostitute, right? And she was sleeping with men. The Chazal say that if a guy would just say her name, he'd automatically have an emission. The Chazal say it was 40 years she was sleeping with men, and all the kings and the princesses and the movie stars and the presidents of the countries. And this was a crazy thing, right? And here she converted to Das Yisrael. She came to the Jewish faith and saw the light of God in the world, right? So just to bring out divrei chizuk, right? By anyone who's struggling in this area, for anyone in this Chaburah who's struggling with pornography or compulsivity or anything like that, like there is hope. Like as Rabbi Nachman says, never, never, ever give up, right? Because by affirming your values and not shaming yourself, by affirming your worth and living life with your deepest authentic self, then you can overcome any compulsiveness, any addiction, by working through that, right? So the Torah doesn't shy away from this topic at all. And I felt that it's a good time to give chizuk to this area for people, to not kill yourself and run yourself down with shame and align yourself with your deepest inner truths and work towards it, obviously with a therapist or with someone who actually understands about these things, But a large part of it is not shaming yourself and aligning to your deepest held values. So much so, where we mentioned last week, Yehoshua marries Rachav, right? That this person, it's not an amputation, it's transformation, right? And therefore, that the Torah doesn't shy away from this thing, that even is, as like Rabbi Nachman says in Aye Mekom Kavodo, he says Hashem could be found in Batei Avodah Zarah, in houses of idol worship, and places of prostitution, Batei Znus. That's what he says, right? I couldn't say this on my own, that's what Rabbi Nachman says, but which is an amazing, amazing thing for everyone to be machazik themselves in this area.
Last thing you said?
He says, if I had a look at Maran here, I could show it to you. He says in Aye that even in Batei Znus, Batei Avodah Zarah and Batei Znus, you could find Hashem there And that's what he says in Aye. The interesting duality over here is that Pinchas was the person who was Kona es Habris. He was Kanisi, he was a Kanai for Hashem's covenant. So it's Dafka, Pinchas, and Kalev. Kalev was also connected to that. There was Dafka, Pinchas, and Kalev, the people that had outstanding Shomei Habris in the Jewish sense of the word, not just their physical bris, but the spiritual bris, understanding that Hashem is with them, that they were the ones that were able to go into this place of Znus and come out unscathed, right? So this is like, there's a whole undertone here. Understand the simplest reason, again, why they went there also, just to talk about their shot, the simplest reason why they went there was because her house was along the wall. As we see, they took the rope, they went out the wall, and she had a ton of information. Because she was with all the generals, she was doing this for 40 years, she knew all the secrets, right? So she knew all the secrets. They were coming to her to find out what are the secrets, what's really going on here. And in fact, as the parak moves on, so they climb down the rope, they climb out the window because it was on the city walls, right? And then they hid out for 3 days. The Canaanim come, the people of Yericho come, and they say, are there spies here? And she totally misdirects them. They went that way, right? Points them in the wrong direction. And now Kalev and Pinchas, they go off scot-free. Okay, moving on. And you see that Rachav, she joined the Jewish people. She came, she heard the calling, she joined, she saw, this is my thing. And not only that, in the one of the 12 steps is to live a life of service in the 12 steps. So you see, what does she do? This is my own, I'm just putting this on this a little bit, is that she saves her family, She wants to save her family. I think that's an act of service. By realigning herself to her deepest truth, providing acts of service, having a concrete plan, by taking, right, it's not just enough theoretically, have a concrete plan, and therefore she does acts of service by saving her family, So I think that's like a beautiful, I think it fits, I think it's a beautiful thing. Moving on in the parak, right? So then we get to parak 3. What happens is, the Jews, they now travel from Shittim to the riverbanks of Jordan. So now they're on the move. So the interesting thing to just note over here is that this is the first time, right? It says, Vayashkem Yehoshua b'boker, Yehoshua got up early in the morning. So it's just like Avraham, right? Kamo Avram Avinu Matil Yeshua's Poloso as Im Hashkamas HaBoker. That Avraham also, he got up early in the morning. So you see this parallel of Avraham getting up. He was very happy to go into Yisrael. And then Hashem says, when you they're prepared, and what they're told is, when the Aron starts to move, now you go ahead and you start following the Aron.
What can I ask?
Yeah, go.
Why did any portion talk about why specifically 2,000 amos?
So, and generally speaking, the Aron moving was 2,000 amos. I don't know why, but they talk about that as the chum, right? That's the borders of Shabbos that you're allowed to go. Oh. I don't know exactly why 2,000. Rav Nassan has a whole Torah about the Nekudas Tovas and Aye and how that's the Alpayim Amos and Tchum Shabbos. Save it for another time. So Hashem says over here in the second paragraph, Vayatzu es ha'am leimor kiroschem es eis Aron bris Hashem elo heichem v'kanom levim nosim oso. When you see the Kohanim moving this, when the Aron is moving, so you're going to now follow the Kohanim and the Aron. So this is an interesting thing over here. Why? I just want to highlight this. Up until, this is the first time you see, we're used to that. Oh, the Jews traveled, the Aron moved, and the Jews traveled, right? This is the first time you see that. This was another shift that was happening. Why? Because the Jews always traveled by the Ananei Kavod. So again, you see the shifting from the midbar, where they had the man, and the Ananei Kavod were clearing the way.
The Ananei Kavod is only when Aaron was alive, no?
Right. So I don't know exactly.
He died a while before.
Right. So again, I don't know exactly how it worked, but
He came back.
right. So this is another example where you see the transition. For the first time, we're now moving with the Aron, right? So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, right? Like, it's something we're used to, but here it is. This is the first time. We're now going to travel. We're now going to travel by the Aron. So in this parak now, continuing along in parak 3, Yehuda, tell me when I should end. Moving on in parak 3 over here, as we continue, this is the first time we see the Aron moving. And then we have the great miracle of the splitting of the Yarden. Okay? I want to talk about this for a moment. The splitting of the Yarden, which is, he brings over here, I'm using the Sefer from Das Sofrim, which is, I love the Sefer actually. It's Das Sofrim, it's a set. There's a guy in the Ramah Aleph whose grandfather was the Das Sofrim, the Kornblutz. Benji and his brother Chaim. And this was their grandfather. And it's pshat, it's simple. It's simple, and sometimes you bring Zohars and different things, So I like the simplicity and ease of use. So he says Bezos Tedun, right? When they're crossing the Yarden, where they're about to split the Yarden, it says, and this you will know. The pasuk says, "V'yomer Yeshu bezos Tedun." Hashem says, "Ki el chai b'kirchem," that Hashem is with you. V'horish yorish mipnechem. You're now going to inherit the land, and you're going to get the Kanani, Hachiti, the nations that are living there, Zion Amim, that are living there. So this is an interesting point over here, right? He writes, Mataras ha-nisim Mitzrayim. The point of the nisim in Mitzrayim were, he brings in Shmos, Vayedun ki ani Hashem, to know that I am God. I did all these miracles, I did Kriyas Yamsuf to teach you that I am God, right? But Hakorach HaKoas Hashem, Nes HaYarden Mataraso, what was the point of the Nes HaYarden? Haiselahoros ala Shechina Hashoriv B'kerev Yisrael, is to teach us that the Shechina resides on Am Yisrael, right? B'kiyas HaYarden lo hayaba kol tzarech yuni, because the Yarden's not that big. We're going to get it, I'll show on a map in a second over here. The Yarden is not that big. You go kayaking on the Yarden, right? It's really not big. It's long, but it's not wide. It's not like an ocean, right?
Places you can pretty much jump over.
Right, there are places you could jump over. So there's this miracle, the splitting of the Yarden, it was really unnecessary, right? And one of the reasons why over here, it's not like the Mitzrayim, to show that I am God. This splitting of the Yarden was to teach us Hashem is with the Jewish people, right? Hashem is with, right? We know the Meiser Merkava. Hashem is with the Jewish people. The chariot, the Shechina, resides on Am Yisrael. Where Am Yisrael is, that's where the Shechina goes. So Hashem is doing this amazing miracle of showing that's where it goes. Now, that Hashem is with you. Now, I want to show you on the maps over here a little bit, okay? This is pretty simple maps, okay? I'm just going to show you the cover because this is the easiest map over here, okay? Just to show you. So we're in Beit Shemesh. Beit Shemesh, there's not a dot over here, if you could see. This is a regular map on the cover. This is Beit Shemesh. Now, here's the Dead Sea. Everyone sees the Dead Sea, basic geography. And all the way up north, you have the Kinneret, okay? Everyone can see that? Kinneret, Dead Sea. This over here, it says Jordan River. This little line over here connects the Dead Sea to the Kinneret. Yeah.
You go swimming in it.
Yeah, you go swimming in the Yarden.
It's simple water.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Great.
Right now, here, I'll show you another map over here. You could open, I'm not going to send you all to your phones right now, but you could go on Google Maps, and just look at it, right? So here's another picture over here, right? Here is the Dead Sea. Everyone can see this. Here's the Dead Sea. Here's the Kinneret. Right over here, where my finger is, that's Jericho. Jericho, right? That's Jericho. And this line over here is the Yarden. Notice how it's greener around the line because, right, Mesopotamia was the Fertile Crescent because where you have water, you have life. You have greenery, right? Push it. So you see geographically, it's greenery. Now the Jews, they went right into Jericho. For those who could see, Jews went right into Jericho. So this side of Eretz Yisrael, this is not Eretz Yisrael. This is called Me'aver HaYarden in Torah literature. This is Me'aver HaYarden. Regarding certain things, it does. Trumas, Maisrus, when different things grow, but it doesn't have full din. Because everything in life, there needs to be a segue, a mamutza, an in-between. So Me'aver HaYarden is the in-between of Eretz Yisrael to everything else. It's the bridge. What? Right? So we're going to show, this is exactly what we're going to show. Right? So in English, fancy English words, this side over here is called the Transjordan. Transjordan, other side of the Jordan. Right? So it says over here, let me show you the maps, just so you could see over here. Right, here's a closer look. Justin's showing you. Here's a closer look. Here's the Dead Sea. This is the bottom of the Dead Sea over here. Here's the Yarden, goes straight up. And here is Jericho, and here's Gilgal. Right? So hopefully it's hard for me to hold. Okay, hold from this side's a little better. Right? So the Jews are over here. Right? They cross the Jordan River. It splits. There's this big, and they go straight to Gilgal. Right? They go straight to Gilgal over here. These are all awesome places where you could go. It's a live land.
Where's the hill of foreskins?
Oh, so I'll show you pictures. I have pictures of that on my cell phone. Okay?
Hopefully it's not foreskins.
Right? And Jericho's right here. So it says just like Yericho is just like the Beis Hamikdash, just like Yerushalayim is the entrance to the Beis Hamikdash, the key to the Beis Hamikdash. Yericho is the key to Eretz Yisrael. So they crossed at that place, camped in Gilgal. They went to Yericho over here, right? So, and just to show you one last picture over here, to show you where the tribes were of okay. I could find them. I don't exactly see it in the map over here, but it's there. Maybe I'll take a picture when I find it. So the tribes of Menashe, right? This is Eretz Yisrael over here. So those tribes lived 1, 2, 3.
They got a big land.
They got a big land, right? It was 1, 2, 3, that a huge area. And the last thing I'm going to say on the Yarden over here is that the Yarden, as we just saw, connects the Dead Sea to the Kinneret. So the Dead Sea, the Yam HaMelech, those are the bitter waters, the salt waters, the waters of tears, right? And the Kinneret is the sweet waters. It's the sweet waters of the Kinneret up north, the fresh water. And the Yarden is the bridge where it's the Hamtakas Hadinim, where it's the meeting of the sweet waters and the bitter waters coming together.
Mela, sweet, salt, sweetens things.
Salt, sweet. But if you have too much salt, he says over there also, I think it dehydrates you. You become too thirsty.
In between is that.
Right. So we have the sweetening of judgments happening, the Gvuros and the Chasadim coming together, flowing through this connecting piece of the Yarden. And with that, we should be zochet to be mantik all the dinim and Elul and continue to learn the parak. Continue weiter.
We're supposed to learn Thursday.
No, you don't have to learn a parak on Thursday.
Just Sunday to Wednesday.
Yeah.